So look over right. Side here. Look a little closer. You can imagine that Street River is like a lot of neighborhoods in Chicago. It sits in a swamp, a marsh, some of the worst land you can imagine building a city upon. In fact, see how there are these levels to the city? You can see our Lakeside Expressway rising up. You'll see this all over the city. It's because the city was literally falling into the swamp. You know how they fixed it? They jacked it out in the 1850s and 60s. Took things that looked like car jacks and looked at everything between 4 and 14 feet and beat the foundation from the top. Met the buildings halfway. Pretty bananas. I'll show you more about that later. But here's why you would even bother building a city in a swamp. It's because of our very unique access. That's the southwestern corner of the Great Lakes, right over there. That's that boat. In the very beginning, at that time, of the American frontier. So imagine just on the other side of that lock is the old passageway up over the Great Lakes that would connect ultimately to the Erie Canal in 1825. So you can take a boat from the Atlantic to New York City right here.
Oh, look, the bridge, you can walk under there.
Now the way we're going to head, straight ahead of you is an old American Indian shortcut. So imagine for 1,000 years, American Indians have been canoeing this way to the Great River. So we're going to take that passageway right now. And TripAdvisor calls this one of the best things to do in America because the views are sensational. What happens is, of course, because we're this Midwestern prairie town right in the heart of the Great Frontier, there's a highway from New York to New Orleans running right through it. This river, for a while, was the world's busiest river. In the 1890s, 1,200 boats every single day passed through here, but those big boats have moved on. So Chicago grew up from the river. The river is our center line. Those boats get out of the way, and now they leave those views for us here. Take a look. As you look around, remind yourself everything you're looking at is actually a swamp. All these buildings sit in marshy soil. You can take a look over here to the left and see a trio of blue wavy towers over here. This is a brand new building by a local architect. Her name is Jeannie Gang, and this is her building called the St. Regis. Now imagine, anytime you're building a building in a swamp, you need to punch down to bedrock. It's 120 feet down. So take a look at the St. Regis, and imagine 2 out of those 3 towers push all the way down bedrock. The second tower there, the central tower, floats. You can walk underneath it. It's entirely propped up by its neighbors because Jeannie Gang wanted to create a passageway from the neighborhood behind it called Lakeshore East to this river walk dead ahead of you. Now, if you look up to the top of the tallest tower, what you'll notice is there is 2 sets of windows that have never been put in. They live on the 83rd and 84th floor. That is the solution to a problem. The windows aren't going up. It's called a blow-through. Here's the problem. The building was swaying way more than they wanted to, right? Once all the glass windows went up, particularly affecting the penthouse. The top, for the high-value real estate, the price on that penthouse, $18.5 million for that penthouse. But don't worry, it's 14,000 square feet, so kind of a good deal when you think about it. So how do you imagine?
The 83rd and 84th floor, they didn't put it up because
when you're that high up and you're feeling that sway, how do you fix it? Because it's going to affect the real estate values. Well, you go about 17 floors down,
no
and you just sacrifice
hitting the building. I don't know what it is.
You let the wind whip through the lower top of the building, and that pass-through allows the building to help stabilize itself against the wind and prevent that same wind from pushing those millionaires around.
Talking about it. Second building.
Now, Jeannie Gang built a previous building. Her first building was 10 years earlier, and the city of Chicago kind of fell in love with it. Let me show you that one. This one's over here to the left-hand side. It's got these gorgeous waves on it. Now, you're going to get a quick sparkle of sun there, so get ready to cup your hand over it. But it's a building with those cool wavy concrete lines. You take a look. Kind of famous. It's called Aqua Tower, or Aqua for short. The waves are, of course, concrete balconies. Now remind yourself that traditional balconies that are built like these little dots of structure can almost act like a bad sail in the wind, so they don't go up very high. And again, do not be afraid to cup your hand up over the sun as we get close enough for you to really see Aqua. Just give it a second, I'll pass right behind the building there. But as you look, remind yourself that her balconies go well up over 80 stories only because they're aerodynamic. Traditionally, you can never build balconies that high unless you have a pretty good line on how to make them wind resistant. Look a little closer at Aqua. What you'll also notice is the balconies kind of come and go, like high tide and low tide. What you wanted to do was create balconies as concretized points of perspective. So what happens is this: wherever the balconies swell out, that's where views are great for the people on the inside. But where views disappear, her balconies do too. How did she figure out where views are going to be great for a building that doesn't exist yet before she built it? They built a 3D model of the neighborhood and a 3D model of the building they wanted to attend, and they spent about a month with the laser pointer to a perfect point of view all around. Now straight ahead of us, of course.
Thank you for watching, man.
Straight ahead of us, of course, is the city's second tallest building, Trump Tower. Trump Tower's roof is actually lower than the St. Regis, which we just looked at. But if you want to make your building taller, you can always add a pole. That's what makes Trump Tower the second tallest building in the city. Take a closer look and you're going to see Trump Tower has this kind of cool silvery blue color. That's a transition color for your eyes. It's blending it into its neighborhood. Trump Tower has two very famous neighbors. And the silvery blue takes your eye from white to black. Take a look to the right and you're going to see a white building.
And look to the right, there's a white building. Take a look at black, you're going to see a black building right behind it. So that silvery blue color transitions your eye from one to the other. The other thing Trump Tower uses are these reference lines. So if you look real close, you're going to see these sort of gray vented bands that wrap around the building. Look at the third one from the bottom. If you notice, the third gray vented band line from the bottom, that's a reference line. So as we push closer, that third gray line is going to line up with the flat black roof of the building behind it. And it's also going to line up with the spire top of the white building there. Now that's something your conscious brain won't see, but your eyes will register as symmetrical. So help blend his building in 2009 to buildings from the 20s and 60s. Now take a look at the beautiful white building from the 20s. It's a very famous name here in Chicago. This is called the Wrigley Building. And the Wrigley
Building. It starts
Building.
when a local soap salesman having trouble moving his soap, so he decides a promotion. Give a couple sticks of chewing gum away as a fun little idea. Turns out people like the gum way more than they like the soap. He takes his gum called Juicy Fruit to the 1893 World's Fair and builds an empire. Now this is a skyscraper from the 20s. It's a great example of a style of architecture that's going to dominate American architecture from 1885 all the way to the mid-20s. You can see it here. It's a love affair with Europe. Look at the top of that clock tower. You can see it as a Spanish cathedral from the Renaissance, right? American architects are very into ideals of European beauty at this point. Underneath this bridge and on the right-hand side, I can show you. How you doing? I can show you my favorite little tactic of beauty if you like. Once you pop out the other side, start your eye low, and slowly bring it to the top.
And start your eye low.
What'll happen if you do that is the building will get whiter and brighter as the eye rises. They shaded it like a Renaissance painting. Only they didn't use paint, they used 6 different levels of escalating white tile. The tiles were pre-glazed, so they had to arrange them using all 250,000 of them on the spots. They were trying to create a soaring.
Bella, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Straight ahead of us, and on the left-hand side, I want to show you a building here with these little Roman temples. You'll see a strong central tower, then a thinner one on top, and a big Roman temple on top of that. This building was called the Jeweler's Building, way back in the era of Al Capone. As we get a little bit closer, this is another great example of that European-inspired architecture. Riverwalk's full of lovely little spots, just like this. Take a look. A city's just an astute blend of nature and concrete, right? And this is a great little public plaza with lots of seating. Now, a brilliant touch is to stab trees in there because, of course, those trees create that subtle sense of privacy and give us just enough shade to really take the edge off of the views. Now look for the bikes and where the people are walking. You know, I'll notice the last little human touch is to add ever so softly a sloped ramp that winds its way through there, right? Those sloped ramps are lovely because, of course, as we age, we start to do things like get bad knees, start to do things like push strollers, start to do things like need wheelchairs. So that ramp invites us all to enjoy the beauty of the Chicago River. Dead ahead of us is, of course, the Chicago L train. Take a look. If you haven't been on it and you want to take a little cruise around the city for 20 minutes, it'll cost you $2.25. I recommend catching the L train in that big building and just headed the other way. That's the Merchandise Mart. And trains that leave that building are headed to the Loop right? It's called the Loop. If you really want to experience the building in the Art Deco style, walk into that big lobby there, right? It's open because of the L trains in there. That lobby is like a time machine to 1930. You'll see what Art Deco really is about. It's about lavish materials, the finer made things in life, and a sense of elegance, not from European beauty like the first style, but from gorgeous, well-made items.
The Riverwalk's cool.
Straight ahead of us is, of course, a place where the Chicago River splits. Let's imagine 1,000 years ago, American Indians canoeing to the Great River. They would have taken that left turn. See where that boat's coming from? That's your passageway to the Mississippi, over here to the left-hand side. See where all these people are walking and sitting out on the river and enjoying it? Picture that as a bar. In the 1820s, that was the most popular bar in Chicago. We were just a little tiny village over there. It was called the Sauganash. But we'll elect our mayor in that bar in 1837 and go from a little tiny mudhole village into a metropolis over the 19th century. And it all starts right over there. Now at that moment during the 1820s and 30s, the very beginning of the western frontier of the United States is straight ahead. That's the spot right there, dead ahead of you. Today it's the beginning of Chicago's west side. So there's a building that sits right on that spot there. You can see it's called River Point. And if you look at the base of River Point, you can see it's got this little embedded symbolism, which is of course suggesting that you're looking straight west with a Gateway St. Louis arch. Now notice how reflective the building is, and then look up and you'll see the inverse of the arch, suggesting that this building is so reflective, it's reflecting everything, even itself. It's pretty cool. It's an architecture firm called Picard Chilton. Notice our bridges. You can look left and see the Lake Street Bridge. Elevated train track on top. Cars go in the middle. And if you look right dead center of the bridge, it splits. It is a working drawbridge. Every bridge that we have passed under, every bridge that we will pass under, are all working drawbridges. They rise and fall about 40 times a year. The next batch will start end of September as the sailboats start coming back, heading down to dry dock. Now there's an old bridge dead ahead of you that'll show you how all our bridges work. It's an old railroad bridge from 1908. Take a look. See that rock hanging off the back of it? That is a counterweight. That counterweight allows a little tiny engine to lift a great big heavy thing, because the bridge is basically a teeter-totter. Teeter-totter, of course, is a child's idea, but when you're in harmony, you're much more easy to lift and lower. So it takes about 108 horsepower to lift and lower the heaviest bridge in the city of Chicago. Thousands of tons moved by an engine half the size of the engine in your car. Now across from the old railroad bridge is a railroad warehouse for ice. So take a look at that soft brown building and imagine all the windows were bricked in and all the balconies were bricked down, and that was a giant thermos for ice. Wisconsin ice loaded up in the 1890s. Train cars would have come right up next to it, and they'd send those train cars down to the slaughterhouse district so the slaughterhouse could start to operate in the summertime. And all it's going to take to get this disassembled beef all the way to New York City is a network of these ice warehouses following the train routes all the way there. Now, as you get a little bit closer, you can imagine that a Chicago architect will punch through those big, thick walls to create those balconies. He does this in the early 80s to create this condo complex called Fulton House. But just a few years later, he builds a set of sailboat-inspired river cottages. They're right next door. Notice the triangular shape of the cottages there. That, of course, is because he's thinking about sailboats. Now, when you get to the front face of the cottages, you'll see that the sailboat imagery doesn't end. Little crow's nest balconies, spiral staircases off of boats, and then if you look good and close, you're going to see these sort of diamond-shaped skylights. If you get on YouTube and look these buildings up, they're called the river cottages. You can see people pointing cameras from the skylights out, and what he's done is he's lined up the metal of the skylights to line up with the metal of the old railroad bridge. Pretty cool. It's a local architect named Harry Weiss. Well, friends, just past our next bridge, we're going to take a little bar break. What Captain's going to do is spin the boat around so we can start our journey south. What I'm going to do is walk around in case anyone has any questions. What you're invited to do is visit the bar if you need a fresh refill, or you can just sit back, relax, ask me a question, or just enjoy the spin, because we'll resume this tour in just a couple minutes.
They're going to U-turn and go south. So it's basically making a T.
How many minutes?
The tour is a T, 75 minutes. So we went straight, and then we went right. Now we're gonna go left, and then we're gonna come back. So But this tour gets all the information about the building.
We should go into that lobby, huh? It's nearby. Look what that building is.
The L train, or the L train. Did you do the shark boat ride? And this river walk can walk around the whole city. It's gonna turn back. U-turning. See that?
It's U-turning.
Yeah.
Like a U-turn more. I literally play and Nintendo. No how.
The guy brought me back my wallet. When we walked out, one of the guys that was drinking in front of us, he brought his back for him. Yeah.
We're going back.
Just the wallet, like credit cards, everything. Yeah, everything is there. He followed us, huh? Yeah.
I'll eat going first next.
This tour, let's be careful. Let's give you the tour of the whole city. My thing keeps stopping sometimes.
Folks, as we make our turn, folks, if you like, you can look to the left there and see the East Bank Club. This is one of the fanciest private clubs in the city of Chicago. Imagine a place built in 1980, designed to attract specifically people interested in fitness, but some of the most famous, prestigious, kind of, movers and shaker kind of Chicagoan you can imagine. So here's a couple names. Oprah, Barack Obama, before he's president, as a member of the East Bank Club. Now think about that as you look at the very boring wall that we're staring at, right? Fancy club, but it's turned into a very ugly wall to the river. Why? Because it's built in 1980, when the river is just an abandoned, smelly, old highway. Really not much to look at. In fact, see those lines of windows? They're not original. They come later, right? Now there's this old architectural idea that architecture is windows. Windows for a building are kind of like the eyes of a person. Will sort of tell you something about it, at the very least what that person's interested in by seeing where they look. So think about that as you look to the building to your right. It's 20 years later now. Now we're in the early 2000s, and this is called Kinsey Park. Now, if this building's windows were eyes, you can see they're staring very lovingly at the water, right? Totally different river. It's a place where people want to be, and it's only been 20 years. Now, you could also imagine that this isn't the only row of these townhouses. There's an identical twin row just a half block away, and that second row is worth half as much, right? In other words, you double your real estate dollar for being up on the water like this. Now straight ahead of us is the Kinsey Street Bridge. This is a bridge famous for those romantics on the boat. This bridge is probably the most popular spot in the city for wedding photos. Typically what they do is they station a wedding photographer right by that Kinsey Street sign. The happy couple is across the bridge, and they shoot the photo that way, the way we're headed, because what they want is the view that you're about to get. They want to use that as the backdrop for their wedding photo. So if anybody's a photo fan, feel free, grab your cameras, enjoy the view. And if you like photos, keep your cameras handy, because in about 1 minute after this photo, I got another great photo opportunity coming up, kind of back to back. So go ahead and enjoy. Love this view. You get this cool bend of the river, some amazing architecture dead ahead, which we'll pass by in a second, and this little slice of old industrial Chicago here just behind. I think that's what people seem to like about it. Now as we push forward, look past the old ice warehouse, look up and you'll see a very thin property. You're going to see an amazingly thin building. This building is very thin because it sits on a piece of real estate cut off by the train tracks. Remember the trains would roll up here to go to the old ice warehouse?
Thin property.
So it was an abandoned piece of property for 150 years. Now here you can see it. Look how thin it is. That's residential property. The trick with residential property is everybody in Chicago always wants the same thing. Downtown parking, right? Who wouldn't want that? But how do you squeeze a parking garage in a building this narrow? Well, they did it. Look, see the secondary level? Those soft gray windows? That's a garage. But look what you do not see. Ramps that connect the street to the garage. It's because the building is literally so narrow you can't turn a car around in it. There's space to park cars or turn cars around, not both. So what do? The architect solved the problem by building an elevator that could lift and spin a car. As we ride down the river, this is the main branch of the Chicago River to the left-hand side, yeah? So you're going to get a quick glimpse into the heart of downtown Chicago. And remember, this is this river that used to be the world's busiest river, and all those big boats went away as the city grew. So you're kind of looking right into the heart of downtown. Just a lovely little view. And hopefully you were able to get me out. I didn't want to ruin their photo. Straight ahead and on the right-hand side. Look at this amazing piece of construction, right? Look how narrow that little thin stem of this building is. It's bananas, right? Now imagine right behind it, the building's being squeezed by train tracks, right, that fan out. And in front of it, you'll see this in just a second, the building's being squeezed by something else. It's a zoning law that says in Chicago, if you're going to build along the water, people come first, buildings come second. So that means what you'll see is a little public plaza. You can go for a walk along right here. It's public property. But it squeezes the building's usable space into just 39 feet. Look at the thin little stem. Now that's supporting a 53-story office building. How's it doing it? Well, remember, the stem has to punch all the way down 120 feet. It rises up 2 stories above the water, clicks out, and spreads its wings so you can build 53 stories of real estate on top.
53 stories.
Now look at the sloped wall. The building has these really cool reflections, but if you look at the sloped wall, you can see a reflection of a white boat. In front of the white boat, you'll see someone wearing a blue shirt. If you look a little closer, you might find someone wearing your clothes. It's an architecture firm called Getz and Associates. They are also the builder of the Bank of America building, which is coming up on the left-hand side past the next bridge.
Past the next bridge.
You can look under the bridge and see another one of these plaza areas. Again, this is a sun-filled corridor, gorgeous landscaping. If you get a chance, walk right through there. You routinely see people sitting out here, eating their office lunches, just enjoying the space. One other thing you'll notice as you float by the building is, see the legs of the building? That's the steel skeleton underneath. Now it's been covered with a little fancier brushed metal coverings, but this is the shape of the skeleton that's holding the building up. So you could look at it, and inside it see the strongest shape in all of steel framing, which is of course a triangle. So when you look at the Bank of America building, you're going to see triangles holding up triangles. Now its next door neighbor, the Opera House, is that Jazz Age architecture, right? So this is the style of the late 20s. It's the style after the European style. And here's how you recognize it. Always look for this. Every single time you'll be able to recognize it. Look for rising vertical lines. Lines that go straight up. Why are they there? They pull your eyes up, right?
See it.
Why did Al Capone like a pinstripe suit? Same reason I like them. Makes you look a little taller, a little leaner. It does that for skyscrapers, tour guides, and gangsters, right? This is obviously our Opera House. And of course, those lines are specifically designed to pull your eyes up and give you a sense of the height of the new, wondrous Jazz Age buildings. Straight ahead of us, and on the left-hand side, I want to show you a building with these famously serrated edges. Look past the bridge tower and you look and you'll see the edges look like the teeth of a saw blade. Very unusual shape, and it has to do with the very unusual kind of person in this building. This is a group of people, and you'll see their name just above the bars here on the other side in white letters. They are called the CME Group. They are commodities traders. And I love commodities traders because they do something in a very obvious way that we all do in a subtle way, which is fight for wealth and status. So take a look at these serrated edges, look up and ask yourself, what's the #1 symbol of wealth and status in the corporate world? A corner office, right? So what the architect did is create 4 times as many corner offices because they serve as an engine for the incentive to inspire the people who literally work inside the building, right? Thanks to Fujikawa Johnson and Associates.
Oh, the edges.
On the right-hand side, I want to show you a style of building that comes up in the 1950s. For the first time since 1885, you're going to see what's been holding a skyscraper up all along, a steel skeleton.
Yeah.
Now this is a generation that wants to put the skeleton firmly on display. We see these buildings in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and it's a style kind of minimalistic, so we call it modernism is the name that comes to be known by. But it's a very pared down style. What they're hoping to do is use editing to create a sleekness or an elegance. Their expression is less is more. Let me show you one of their little buildings and you can get a better sense of it. This is a little black box here. This is more modernism. So think about that as an idea, editing, less is more. Look at those X's and then remind yourself, what's the strongest shape in all of steel framing? A triangle, right? So here you can of course see what an X really is, which is of course the coming together of four triangles. The idea is simple. You're going to build a simple building. It doesn't need to look like it has a purpose. Humans are filled with purpose. We'll bring that purpose to a variety of different buildings. Now this style loves public works of art. So let me show you one final building here that's got a piece of public art right on front of it.
Oh, I see it.
Look low, you'll see a grid. Follow the curvy line with your eyes, and you just might figure out where you are in life. Let the red dot tell you, you
are
here.
So the red dot means that's where we are at. So that's
now after the modernist era, you get the next generation of architecture, and that looks like this. Take a look to your right. This is a building from the mid-1980s called Gateway 4. This is Gateway 4. And this is the style after modernism, so this comes to be called postmodernism. And you can see it's a different generation. They basically want to turn glass into a funhouse mirror. More on them in a little bit, but for now, I like this building for a much sillier reason. I like it because they use it in the opening frame of my favorite movie they ever filmed in downtown Chicago. If you saw the movie, they zoom in on one of those panels of glass as the opening frame because the glass is going to explode as a grappling hook shoots from that building to this one. Take a look to the right. Take a quick second and notice who is inside this building, by the way. But what happens is two bank robbers rappel down and land on top of the roof. They're going to rob this, so we cut to inside the old Art Deco lobby. If you saw the movie, you remember they drive a bus, physically drive it into the lobby so the robbers can get away. One of them takes his mask off. He's Heath Ledger, pretending to be the Joker. This is the opening of The Dark Knight. Some would argue the best Batman movie ever made. But they were able to film in there because we'd abandoned this building for 20 years. Take a look at it. This is an amazing space, right? Look how huge it is. It's in the heart of downtown Chicago. It's got a 6-lane highway running right through it, and we couldn't think of a single thing to do with this building from 1995 till 2015. Just gathered dust, handful of movies filmed in there, and that's it. It's pretty bananas. Used to be the world's busiest post office. But remember, the catalog industry, so prominent in Chicago, gets heavily disrupted because of the internet. The invention of the internet in the mid-1990s, of course, changes shopping, right? Mail order starts to fall away to online shopping. So, it takes a $900 million reinvestment to jazz this place up. If you looked and saw who's inside it, Uber is in there now. Walgreens has offices in there now. PepsiCo has offices in there now. And every Monday morning when those fancy corporate types walk into the building, they cut through a lobby that once upon a time, the Joker robbed.
PepsiCo, Uber.
Straight ahead, you can see the Riverline development. Now as we get close, look under the bridge, and you're going to see more public space that's for you and me. Remember, if you build along the water in Chicago, the company that builds owes all of us public space, right? These are the laws. Now this Riverwalk here is kind of fun in that they hid all the streetlights. Look for streetlights, you won't find any. Some of them are hiding in plain sight. See those white benches? Come back tonight and they glow. They're secret, camouflaged streetlights. Now, if you look a little closer at the buildings themselves, this is called the Riverline Development, and they all have something in common, this little tiny bit of structure. And if you spot this structure, you instantly know if you're staring at a residential property or are you staring at an office building. And the answer is balconies mean residential property, right? We in Chicago love our balconies. We think it's the solution to one of our problems, which is this: we never get as much nice weather as we would like, right? Fall seems way too short. Winter is way too harsh. We just think the balcony is going to be the solution. But here's the dirty little secret to Chicago balconies. Take a look. No one ever uses them, right? It is a gorgeous Sunday. Nobody's working downtown in theory, and yet all of them are empty, right? What are these balconies doing? They are just warehousing grills that also no one is using, right? The idea was to create a usable public space, but maybe a better idea is an old idea. If anybody's been to an old city in the world, you'll see they have these public plazas, right? It's usually a curving medieval street, and it just turns into this public space. And it's always quaint and charming. Everyone's out having coffee and just talking because, of course, when you walk into it, you want to sit down and have coffee there. There's just something very charming. It's like the opposite of a Walmart parking lot, right? There's just something inviting. Architects know this. They study these spaces. Why don't we see more of them in America? Well, it's hard. Watch this. Here's an architect trying to create one. Take a look to the left. This is a guy named Bertrand Goldberg. And as you look at this building, think back to those corncob towers we saw. Same guy 20 years later. You can almost imagine him unrolling one of those corncobs and dropping it here in 1986. Now look low past those flags. That's the curving medieval street that will reveal the surprise of the plaza, which is a great little space inside for the residents to chill and meet their neighbors, right? Who doesn't want to meet more people, right? Especially when you're young and fun. And then the curvy street would be lined with store fronts, places for people to work and shop and things to do and see and investigate. And then up above it, in 4 or 5 levels, you have the flats, the apartments, the places where people live. Building this all together creates a very tight, walkable, close-knit urbanism that's been popular for 1,000 years. He wanted to do 5 times as much of it right here. Why didn't he? It's because America walked away from this in the second half of the 20th century, right? We fell in love with cars. Cars mean bigger roads, farther apart. If you walked around downtown Chicago in 1986 when he built this, you pretty much would have interacted with a ghost town after about 9 p.m. The workaday crowd left and went out to the suburbs, and downtown was just office buildings. Now, as the 21st century started, we've seen a sort of change, right? Because as we think through it, what if you could live, work, and drop your kids off at school all within a 10-minute walk of each other, right? How amazing. It clearly adds to your life. So you're seeing people kind of move back down trying to create that reality. So there are schools, office buildings, and it's about 50-50. Now, straight ahead of us and on the right-hand side, you can see an old coal-burning power station. If you look close at those smokestacks are like me. They quit smoking. We're on
You can let him play for a bit. I'm just gonna take a picture of you right here. Let me see your phone. Cam, come here. Cam, there's the arch right there. The water. Put your iPad in Uncle KK's bag. No, Uncle KK is gonna open it up. Actually, here. Drop it. Ma'am, you can walk under the arch. They have two different water arches. See? Right there. See?
Oh, that's cute.
But I can go get one. And the restroom's right around the corner. What do you need? Oh, let me go get one. Come on, Ethan. Come on, Ethan. Hello? Hello? Yeah. I'm gonna go with the towel. And when you're done, can you walk this way, come down the escalator? Alright, Diane. What do you mean? I'll show you in a second what it does. So it's a 360 camera, right? So basically, have you seen them on YouTube where you can click and move stuff around? Yeah. Yeah, it's a 360 camera. I know, hold it. Ethan.
Skyline, baby.
Yeah, Uncle KK is gonna go up with you all the way up there. See there? All the way up there.
I'm going all the way up. Me too.
Back to the hospital.
Combined 103 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. 14-14. Cowboys and Chargers have gone to the end of the third quarter. It's Bullock for a 44-yard
Damn, that's a ballroom in there.
Where's the...
Yeah, see how big it is?
Where's the car?
Oh, you're eating a lot, huh?
I'm trying to
Just go ahead and eat, babe. Share it with Bella, too. Are one of y'all from Dallas?
No.
Oh, okay. Just a Dallas fan?
El Paso, Texas.
El Paso?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was seeing your jersey. I was like, one is Chicago, one is Dallas. It's kind of like Dallas and Miami, or I mean,
Yeah.
Miami over here in Florida. What did Bella want?
No. Skyline, downtown.
Yeah. Bella, remember did you ever eat Dippin' Dots? I'm done, babe. And if you live in Chicago, you could just walk the pier with the kids every weekend. Ethan, look, you can go up the ramp. You see that ramp? You'll be tall. You get taller than Uncle KK, or you get real close to being tall. See if you go up the ramp. Yeah. Well, you go to the armature though, Em. And you go to the... Don't go in there, Ethan, because you could fall. They put the cone there.
A friendly reminder that visiting the aquarium, you must wear a face mask or covering when indoors.
Drop this. It's alright. It didn't break. Come on. You ready to go to the car? Or do you want to go lay on that fake grass that they have at the river walk? Car? Car or fake grass? Did she say car or grass? Okay, then we're gonna go in here. We have to go in here. It's Ethan to go to the car. Come on, parking garage. It's not this one, it's the next one. This is number 5. We gotta go to number 2. You see how it says number 5? Right there. We have to go to door number 5 to get to our car. Come on.
What's the number?
Number 5.
What's the number, Uncle Pig?
Number 2. We gotta be at number 2.
Number 2.
And the C stands for the logo of the football team, Chicago Bears. Excuse us, sorry. Check it out. You can see people walking up here. And there's a long line of people trying to get into the Sea Dog. Right there, it's called the Sea Dog. It's a fast boat. Damn, this is a good picture right here if you want the skyline, because you got the Ferris wheel in the background. You have to stand right here, Em. All right, we got to go down. Level 2 is here.
Level 2. Oh, thank you.
What happened?
Say I'm pretty.
Let's go, guys. Ethan, press the button.
Which one is it?
The bottom one.